Do you find it difficult to have meaningful conversations about God with those who you want to disciple, or maybe even just to start them? If this describes you, you are not alone. And there's really good news. Discipleship doesn't have to be difficult. The most effective discipleship happens when you simply talk about God in the everyday moments of life. With the D6 Everyday Foundations curriculum, you can simplify discipleship by making these conversations very easy. Because of our generationally aligned curriculum, all ages, from preschoolers to grandparents, and everyone in between, they learn from the same scripture passages or the same topics each week. This means that you can have those easy conversations around the table, in the car, or anytime just because of what you're learning. And they are learning it too. In fact, we give you the conversation starters inside of your devotional magazines. Discipleship truly does not have to be difficult. Visit d6family.com or use the link in the description. Welcome back to the D6 Family Ministry Podcast. We believe that discipleship should not be difficult. So we're here to help you connect the dots between church and home. Together, let's guide each generation, whether related to you or not, to stand confident in their faith. I'm your host, Ron Hunter, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Marianne Howard. Hello, Marianne.
Hello, sir.
Man, I am excited about today's topic. I really am. And we're diving right into student ministry. And I know you have had a wonderful time interacting with students, and I've watched you interact with young teenage girls and make a heart connection and a personal connection. And that's not easy to do. Tell us your insight for reminding us about that connecting to people versus just focusing on ministry.
Yeah, it's my passion. I mean, I absolutely love teenage girls. And in fact, I wasn't the baby mom and the toddler mom, but I love them when they become teenagers. I tell my mom friends, send them to me when they turn 12. They're like, gladly. I think what I watched in my own context was I opened my home. I created a comfortable space. I will never forget a student that she was invited by another friend to my Bible study that I hosted in my house, and I cooked. I didn't just order pizza. I actually cooked chicken and dumplings and home cooked meal type thing. Comfort food. So creating a comfortable environment and cooking comfortable food, comfort food. She came with a friend and that she met through band, and she would always want to stay late, and she'd climb up on my countertops and she'd sit on my countertops while I would be in the kitchen at the cleaning up after Bible study and just have questions. And I will not ever forget this young woman. Her name is Gabby. She surrendered her heart and life to Jesus sitting on my countertops. So I think it's really just availability and opening the spaces that you can open and asking questions, not judging.
Yes.
Just allowing space for them to figure it out and asking good questions and not looking at them like they're crazy, even though you in your heart feel like, oh my, but just thinking, loving them and creating that space. I'm excited about our wise friend, Jon Forrest, who is so passionate about teenagers. And so I just listened to this statement that he says in the interview.
Every week you have to try to engage the most distracted people in the world with the most important message in the world.
Well, I think you can tell that this episode is going to feel a lot like you're sitting in a coffee shop picking the brain of a 30-year student ministry veteran. And while you're not the one asking the questions, I'm willing to bet our MC asked exactly what you're thinking. Let's join them in this coffee shop as they just have a conversation that is priceless.
So this is normally the point where I give an introduction to our guest, but introducing Jon Forrest seems like introducing Taylor Swift. It's just not necessary.
Very similar.
And John, I went to go get coffee earlier and had to wait in line for a while, so I haven't had a chance to drink it. So I'm going to give you the mic for a couple minutes
perfect.
while I sip and just do whatever you want for a
Absolutely.
second. So
Guys, welcome in. Welcome to the Jon Forrest Show. I'm here with David Jones. We're going to, I don't know. A little heads up would have been good. I could have prepared a monologue. But we're going to kick it to the band now. No, I'm so glad to be with you. There's nothing I'd rather do than talk to you. And it's a little awkward with microphones in between us, but I'll take any opportunity I can to have a conversation with you.
Well, let's kick this thing off the right way from the top. And I will say, Jon Forrest, the person who you've heard from already, has been working with students at Bethel Free Will Baptist Church for over 30 years. That is a long time.
It is a long time. Ask my students how long it is. Yeah, I perform a wedding a day at this point in my life. It really is all weddings. It's weddings of people that I married their parents of.
So when I hear people are in ministry for like an average of 18 months, you have really brought that number up.
I'm the one. Everybody else is like 6 weeks. Yeah.
So you mentioned in your bio that the kids of your first graduates have now graduated, which is very impressive. As people know, you love leading games. You carve fishing lures and do that very well.
I appreciate that.
And you love spending time with your wife and daughter.
I do. Yep.
And I think what's really impressive is you are the author of 3 books. Not 1, not 2, but 3 books.
Anybody can have 1. 2, really, that second one, everybody knows it's the sophomore slump. But when you get to 3, the third one's even worse than the second, in most cases, I've noticed.
Well, that third book that we're still trying to sell on Amazon, so let's be careful what we say about it.
Yeah, the third one's the best. I would definitely go for that.
Yeah, the third book, which is brand new, it's the Super Youth Worker Utility Belt.
Yes. I'm glad you don't put the S. It's the super is not modifying the youth worker. It's the utility. It's the book, the belt. It's a super belt. It's not a super youth worker. You see what I'm saying? That's important.
You lost me when we started doing diagramming
so
sentences.
I know every good book title, you have to diagram it to really break it down and understand it. Everybody knows that. No, I'm just kidding. It needs to be more simple, but it's not. The Super Youth Worker Utility Belt. My talk that I'm doing today, I've already blown our cover. We're at the D6 conference, and I'm about to make a talk. And it's about not being super duper. So I like to make a point about how we can be good and faithful and not super duper. But now I have a book called The Super Youth Worker Utility Belt, and it sounds like I'm saying be super duper. I've talked myself all the way around the block. But do you understand now?
I do.
Have I explained it better?
And let's dive deep. Let's get really deep and serious for a second.
Let's bring it.
John, why did you write it?
Well, that's a great question. Perhaps you remember COVID. There was not a lot going on, and I wrote it. No, every week there's a relentless assault of every week you have to try to engage the most distracted people in the world with the most important message in the world. And it comes every week. As soon as you're done this week, here comes another one. And I'm always in need of a little seed of an idea or maybe an illustration or a game or an example or even a lesson. And I thought, I would like to have all these things available to youth workers. And I thought it would be cool if maybe we put a little superhero spin on. I love Batman's utility belt. Mm-hmm. He's just a rich guy, with a little bit of skill. And that utility belt, though, he's had napalm on his utility belt in a comic book. He's had shark spray, obviously. I don't know if you like the old Batman. The Adam West Batman. He's had kryptonite on his belt. And whatever he needs is right there. And so this book is kind of, what do you need this week? A game? There it is. What do you need? An illustration. Here it is. An icebreaker. You got it. So it's got everything you need right there at your fingertips.
Well, you're a very creative guy. I'm always blown away by the ideas that you come up with, the inventions. I mean, you're kind of the Christian Carrot Top in a lot of ways. I never know what you're going to pull out of that trunk.
I've never been called the Christian Carrot Top.
It's just amazing. But I'm curious, though, how do you develop these ideas? Because they're so original, so unique. Is this something that you like? Do you sit down and just pen and pad and work this out? Do they just randomly come to you while you're driving?
It seems like, I think whenever somebody calls somebody Carrot Top, it's an insult. Is it not? Is he kind of a joke? No, my wife loves him. Yeah. I shouldn't say that, but she does. My idea is, maybe you've heard of Pinterest. I steal a lot of things off. No, I do see things, and when you see something, like, you remember for a while, people would put rice on this paper and then throw it up in the air, and you could read what it was. And I was like, that looks so cool. Do you understand what I'm saying? They would take it and throw it, and I thought, is that possible for me? And so I just did it, and it was easy. And during COVID again, I really just started trying to figure out, I want to do everything I can. I want to learn to do everything, keeping score in bowling, crocheting. I tried to learn how to do a Rubik's Cube. I gave up. I mean, I understand the algorithm things, but I can't. That's not the word. The little, it's too intense. I didn't do that. But I did learn to crochet, and that's where my fishing lure carving came from. But I like keeping my eyes open, and when I see something that's kind of cool, I like to improve on it. And I have this deal where I can't sit and not do something. When I'm watching TV, I like to crochet. When I'm watching YouTube, I love carving fishing lures. Instead of reading, I like doing a lot of things. It's a problem. It is. It's okay though. I've come to terms with it. I've written more books than I've read.
But it is fascinating because I'm jealous of how your creative mind works. Because the stuff that even down to fishing lures, like it's like you never stop learning, which is a very healthy habit to have.
I love it. Yeah.
And we see the fruits of your labor from that. I mentioned earlier that you have been working with students at the same church for 30 years. I almost said the same students for 30 years. That would
Some
be
of them,
a problem.
They've been held back.
But you've been working with students at the same church for 30 years, which is just amazing. You don't see that longevity in ministry very often. In your experience, what's the most important thing for a youth worker to have on their utility belt?
Man, that is a good question. By the way, most of the things that I get done that are worthwhile these days, it's because I've been there for 30 years. I'm so far ahead of the game. I can't imagine. The Lord could call me somewhere else. I don't know what it feels like because this is where I've been forever. But I can't imagine reworking those relationships and making it, it's just so valuable. The things I have now, I'm into schools where it just takes a long time for people to trust you. So whenever a young, one of my guys that interned with me, he just started at a church, and I just want to tell him, don't do anything dumb. You know what I mean? Don't. It's kind of like a doctor. Do no harm. The first thing, don't walk right next to that line. Just don't allow yourself to be misunderstood. You have to err on the side of caution when it comes to that. Even though I'm the guy drinking out of my shoe and all this kind of crazy stuff like that, but you do have to know there are lines and don't hurt anything. And then, of course, the gospel being first, even with all this foolishness, everything that comes around. I'm just setting an area where I can try to make disciples, And so don't mess it up is the first thing. And then authentically loving the students and caring enough to share the gospel as clearly and as plainly as you can. That's what I've done all those years, and it's helped me.
Now, there were times when I was in college and pursuing youth ministry degree that I'd hear people say youth ministry is a stepping stone to the real ministry.
Right, yeah.
When you've been doing youth ministry for 30 years, it's clear that you probably don't see it that way. Is that correct?
I do not see it that way. Well, I mean, I understand what people are saying. It's fine. And so many of my friends, I call them traitors whenever they, end up going into the lead pastorate. But that's fine. I can't imagine it. And I probably will do it next week now that I've said that. But I love these students so much. It's kind of cool going from where I used to try to be cool, and then I knew I wasn't cool, and now I just enjoy not being cool. I'm more the grandpa now, and it's interesting whenever, like on a Wednesday night, I have some younger guys who are my main volunteer helper. They're just off the charts people, and I have this couch of boys. We call them the Fortnite couch. It's like ninth grade boys, that just they find a way to get to church, and they sit on this couch, 5 of them on a 3-person couch, and they're messing around, cutting up a little bit, having a good time. But we play a game. I'm trying to get them engaged. I'm so thrilled that they're there, and there's a little bit of vibe coming there, and some of my volunteers are just like, we got to get these guys to where they listen to every word, and this is the words of life, and I'm like, guys, they came here on their own. I love them. I'm thrilled they're here. They're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. So I catch myself kind of being the grandparent and helping these guys know a little grace, but at the same time, I need what they're saying too. Yeah, they don't need to mess. They'll take advantage of papaw over here if I'm not careful. But it's a beautiful phase of ministry. I do not like doing weddings. And I have married every person within a 60-mile radius of my church. Whenever you've been at a place for 30 years, you know every student. And I'm the marriage guy when it comes to my church. Absolutely.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I've got more questions for you about your book. And we're also going to talk about pace in ministry because I know that's important to you. So we'll be right back.
Weekly teaching opportunities with students can be exciting and relentless. That's why the Super Youth Worker Utility Belt is the perfect resource for youth leaders. Whether you need a last-minute lesson, a fun game, or a meaningful devotional, this book has you covered. Filled with dozens of creative ideas, it's like having a toolbox full of fresh teaching inspiration right at your fingertips. Written by veteran youth worker Jon Forrest, it's packed with lessons, games, outreach ideas, and more to help you maximize every moment with your students. To purchase or learn more about the Super Youth Worker Utility Belt, follow the links in the description.
We're back, and we're talking to Jon Forrest. He is the author of the Super Youth Worker Utility Belt and just an all-around fun guy. So
I'll take that.
I've heard you talk about the importance of pace in ministry. Speaking of pace, you nearly died at the D6 conference in a giant hamster ball. Can you break that down for our listeners?
The rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Here's the thing. I don't know if the listeners have seen these. It's a big beach ball, super thick walled beach ball that you can get inside, and then you blow it up with a leaf blower, and it's not real tight when you first get in it, but for me anyway, I heated that baby up, with body heat. It started fogging up, and the ball gets bigger and bigger, and you only have so much air in there that's breathable. But they were saying that I was running out of air and talking crazy and stuff. One of my buddies, I just saw him. He was running beside me with a pocket knife, ready to cut me out of this thing at any time. They said, "You're acting crazy. You're out of your mind." And I was like, I felt incredible. I was fine. I wasn't about to die. I was just being an imbecile. But it was awesome. If you ever get the opportunity to get in one of those big, giant hamster balls, do it.
Just have a handler with you at all times.
Yes, you do need a guy with a pocket knife.
Well, so talking about actual pace in ministry and kind of getting back to this utility belt that we need youth workers wearing, why has pace become such an important topic and an important focus for you?
It's because I wanted to reach every student. I wanted to disciple every student in my county. And I thought that was realistic. Just come with me, friends. Let's go make more disciples. But I'm starting to realize it's maddening to just see. It's like students are slipping through my fingers, and I don't pay attention to the one right in front of me. And the Lord's way is to make a disciple out of this person, and they will make more disciples. And when pace is not what it should be, everyone is just sliding out the door. And my life is a wreck, and I'm mean to my family because I feel like I should be doing more at church. And I just, it's not the way the Lord set it up. God created pace. He created a man. He created a woman. Have you ever seen a garden, for goodness sake? God created pace. It is a good thing. And some good things are going to go left, are going to be undone. My family cannot be one of those things. My relationship with the Lord cannot be one of those things. And good things go undone. And knowing that means I just cannot make my life a wreck and worry myself to death because I'm trying this breakneck pace and treat it like it's some kind of spiritual discipline I've discovered. Exhaustion. That's what the Lord wants. Not at all. Pace is so important.
And this kind of goes along with that, and we're going to go a little bit deeper here, and I'll preface this by saying you gave me permission to ask about this.
I did.
Yeah. I want to bring up the topic of mental health because I think a lot of ministers are out there suffering in silence. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your journey with mental health and how you found help in recent years?
Sure. I've talked about it quite a bit because one of my friends, I heard him talking about it, and it's what helped me to go see my doctor. And I for a while, I was part-time at the church, and I reupholstered furniture. and that was my full-time job. And I remember sometimes we would start getting low on furniture to reupholster, and I just thought about my family starving to death, and I would just go into the bathroom and just get on my knees and have tears in my eyes, crying, praying to the Lord. And I started thinking that I always thought that was normal. Everybody worried like that. Everybody was just so anxious about the next moment. I have to have it under control. Well, come to find out, that's not what behavior has to be. You don't have to worry like that. And I talked to my doctor about it, just my family doctor. That's the main thing I wanted to say with you today, is because it was so intimidating to me. Oh, I got to go see 6 psychologists and see if they can find. My family doctor prescribed me some medicine, and it was just right on the money. Not everyone is that fortunate to be able to find something that helps them, but it didn't just make everything roses every day. That's also what I thought. I don't want to not be me anymore. You know, it's not what it did at all. It come to find out, the right medicine, the right counseling, those types of things, they made me even keeled. And if someone is suffering, and if someone just feels darkness overwhelming, life does not have to be that way. You know, there is help, and I would really encourage them to talk to their doctor about it. Of course, you know, we pray, we cast our burdens on the Lord, these things, but I'll tell you, it certainly helped me talking to a wonderful doctor, a good family friend, Christian man, and he got me on the right medicine, and I'm so thankful. I'm not as thankful as my wife is, though. We are a different family, a different couple since then, and it's really been a blessing.
And I appreciate you sharing this. I'm right there with you. I went to my family doctor. He was able to prescribe it. I didn't have to jump through 25 hoops.
Exactly,
and I put it off for too long.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have.
Man.
And
me too.
I'm thankful I didn't put it off any longer because it made a difference. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
Well, I know we're going to have people listening to this, ministers, parents, people from all walks of life who are struggling with anxiety, who are struggling with depression. Maybe they're dealing with deep feelings of loneliness. What encouragement can you offer to them today they feel like, I'm alone like this, or they think like you, like everybody is going through exactly what I'm going through. This must be normal.
Right. Yeah, it's you said it perfectly. Either I'm all by myself, nobody else feels like this, or hey, this is normal for everybody to feel like this. In my latest book, the Super Youth Worker Utility Belt, one of the lessons is on loneliness, and I love where Elijah wins the greatest victory in Christendom, where he defeats the prophets of Baal. You know, I mean, it's 450 verses 1, and he wins, calls down fire from heaven. The next thing we see him, he's under a broom tree asking the Lord to kill him because he's lonely. He thinks he's the last one left. Loneliness will get you. It's the worst thing in the world. Right after he's won the greatest victory ever, and the Lord says, you know what? Sit there, an angel comes and feeds him. He says, take a nap. You know, I'm telling you, there are some real practical things in that story of Elijah there where he's under that broom tree. And rest is so wonderful. Pace is so wonderful. Turning to the Lord, knowing that you're not alone. These things, it's right there in Scripture. And I love it so much. I love him because I haven't felt that kind of victory, you know, but I know what it feels to sit under that broom tree and say, all right, Lord, if you're ready to take me to heaven, that's fine. I'm ready to do that. But I'm so glad that this angel ministered to him, and I have wonderful people around me to minister to me like that too. It's great.
That's great. Well, I want to kind of end on this question for you, because ministry, I mean, it can be tough. It really can be tough and difficult. And I know you've had your struggles with it and things like that. You've gone through what every youth pastor has gone through, especially over 30 years. I mean, you definitely have your trials. How are you able to view ministry in such a fun way? Because you have so much fun doing it, even through the difficulties, even through the trials. It's just a joy watching you do it. How are you able to do that?
I appreciate that so much. I love people so much. I really, I don't know even how to answer the question. I just, if a student, I have this memory of what it feels like to hurt and feel like nobody understands, and I just want so bad for that student not to feel that way, you know, and slowing down and looking at it one student at a time instead of this ministry that's falling in on top of me, thinking about this guy, I know he's hurting this week. This girl, I can tell that something's on her mind. Just going to him saying, "Hey, what's the last song you listened to here? Let's talk about it a little bit. Let me see if I like it. I'm going to check it out." And just a little bit of something. the smallest things go so far. And that's what I've been reminding myself. Don't worry about, winning the whole world here in 5 words. Do what you can with this student right in front of you. And even when we're having a good time, instead of just trying to make it this big thing right here, I want this guy to enjoy it. I want to make sure that you're having a good time. It's making it smaller is what I've been doing mostly. And it really is more fun for me that way too.
Well, your passion comes out in what you do, whether you're playing games with people, inventing games, whether you're writing books, whether you are writing a column for Forward and Velocity magazines for
it's one of my favorite things I get
curriculum,
to do.
which I love. It's my favorite thing to edit too, because
very good.
You make me laugh.
Well, keep editing it. If it's any good, it's totally different than I sent it to you.
It's not at all. But yeah, your passion comes through in what you do. It comes through in how you are teaching and sharing the gospel, how you're even sharing about mental health. So I appreciate it. Just for people that read your books, what they're seeing is exactly how you are in real life.
I mean,
when they see you on a stage, that is who you are. And it's so great. It's such an inspiration to all of us. And I thank you for what you're doing. Much. I thank you for your longevity in youth ministry. Hopefully next week you don't decide to go do something else.
I don't think I will. I don't feel it coming. Yeah.
We appreciate what you're doing. And once again, the book is The Super Youth Worker Utility Belt. Also, you can check out Jon's other books. He's the author of Help, My Games Stink, and Fight Like Your Life Depends on It. Check those out. They're available now. You will be blessed by them. You will also come away with so many creative ideas from them. Jon, thank you for being here today.
Thank you, David. I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh, Jon Forrest, there's none like you.
So well said.
There's only one of him in this world, and I am so thankful for his passion, his calling, the uniqueness of who he is. I mean, he's changing the world. He has changed the world, and he is changing the world as we speak, and I'm so thankful for him. One of the things that I'm passionate about that he brings up in the interview is he talks about pace in ministry. Oh, Ron Hunter, pace in ministry. And, he said that God created pace and that good things go undone. Oh, good things.
I'm convicted.
Yeah, me too. I had someone very wise say to me, Marianne, you've got to learn how to say no to the good things and yes to the God things. And that's very difficult sometimes in ministry to delineate between the two. What were your takeaways?
Well, first of all, let me say, Jon convicted me on pace. You wrote the book on rest, and there's no way I can win in either one of those because that's a struggle, dealing with a work-life balance. If you're in ministry, the lines are so blurred. And, the reminder that I think Jon gave us that I try to remember is I'm not looking for more work, but I am looking for more connection. And so when we approach ministry as a connection, the way you talked about Gabby sitting on your countertop, you connected. It wasn't taking her through the dots or the bullet points. You paced it in such a way that her heart was receptive to it. And that's what I'm reminded of, whether you're interacting with students or children or adults. That's what we want you to most take away from this conversation.
Absolutely. I just want to encourage our listeners just to think about, what can go undone so that you can be present. What can go undone this week so that you can give your presence? Because at the end of the day, that's a conduit to the gospel. And so I just want to challenge you to think about that. I am excited about our interview next week. We're going to have 3 guests at one time.
Yes.
Luz Figueroa, Denise Muir, and Shelly Henning next week is going to talk about some interesting research that you are not going to want to miss. So thank you so much for listening. To learn more, visit d6family.com, and we look forward to seeing you next week.